Ladies and gentlemen, if you want people to think twice before disrespecting you, the first place you have to look is not at them. It is at yourself. That's where the real battle begins. Too many people spend their lives wondering why they aren't appreciated, why they aren't valued, why others ignore their opinions or take advantage of their kindness. They believe the answer lies in changing everyone around them. But life teaches a different lesson. The respect you receive from the world is often a reflection of the respect you have for yourself. Think about it. Every day you send silent messages to the people around you. You send them through your posture, your decisions, your standards, and your willingness to tolerate what should never be tolerated. Long before you speak, people are already reading those signals. If your actions constantly say, "I'll accept anything just to keep the peace," don't be surprised when others offer you less than you deserve. But when your actions quietly communicate, "I know my value and I refuse to settle for less," something changes. The atmosphere changes. People's expectations change. Their behavior changes. One of the greatest mistakes anyone can make is living for approval. Approval is a dangerous addiction because once you depend on it, you'll sacrifice almost anything to keep it. You'll stay silent when you should speak. You'll agree when you know you should disagree. You'll laugh at jokes that insult your values. You'll allow people to cross boundaries simply because you're afraid they might not like you anymore. But here's the truth. If someone only respects you when you abandon yourself, you never had their respect in the first place. You have to make a decision that your principles are worth more than temporary acceptance. That doesn't mean becoming rude. It doesn't mean becoming arrogant. It means understanding that your character is more valuable than someone's opinion. There is a tremendous freedom that comes when you stop asking, "What will people think?" and start asking, "Can I respect myself after making this decision?" That single question has the power to transform your life. The interesting thing about confidence is that it doesn't need to announce itself. Genuine confidence is quiet. It doesn't walk into the room demanding attention. It simply carries itself with certainty. People notice it because it isn't trying to impress anyone. And that kind of confidence begins with keeping promises to yourself. Every time you say you'll wake up early and you do it, your confidence grows. Every time you commit to learning a new skill and follow through, your confidence grows. Every time you've refused to compromise your values for convenience, your confidence grows. Self-respect isn't built in one dramatic moment. It's built through hundreds of small decisions that prove you can trust yourself. Now, let me tell you something that many people overlook. Being kind and respecting yourself are not opposites. Some believe that to earn respect, they must become intimidating or cold. That's not strength. That's insecurity wearing a mask. Real strength allows you to be generous without becoming a victim. It allows you to help people without letting them use you. It allows you to forgive without inviting repeated disrespect. There is a difference between having a good heart and having no standards. Never confuse the two. You'll also discover that not everyone will celebrate your growth. The moment you begin respecting yourself, some people become uncomfortable. Why? Because they benefited from the version of you that had no boundaries. They enjoyed the person who always said yes, always apologized first, always accepted less than they deserved. When you change, those relationships are tested. Don't mistake that discomfort for failure. Sometimes it's proof that you're finally growing in the right direction. Remember, your life is teaching people how to treat you every single day. If you constantly lower your standards, people will eventually lower theirs too. But when you consistently honor your own time, your own values, and your own dignity, others begin to recognize that they must do the same if they wish to remain in your life. The world has an unusual way of responding to people who know who they are. It may not happen overnight. Some people will challenge your new standards. Others may question your decisions. Stay the course. Respect is rarely earned through arguments. It is earned through consistency. Day after day, choice after choice, you become someone whose character speaks louder than words ever could. So before you ask how to make people think twice before disrespecting you, ask yourself a more important question. Do I truly respect the person I see in the mirror? Because the answer to that question shapes every relationship you'll ever have. When your self-respect becomes unshakable, your presence changes without effort. You no longer chase approval because you already possess something far more valuable, inner conviction. And when that conviction becomes part of who you are, people recognize that disrespect has no place in your presence. Respect yourself first, and the world will learn how to respect you. Once you've learned to respect yourself, the next step is just as important. You have to protect that self-respect with clear boundaries. Self-respect without boundaries is like building a beautiful home and leaving the front door wide open. You may know your worth, but if you allow anyone to walk in, take what they want, and leave whenever they please, your actions will contradict everything you claim to believe. People don't simply listen to what you say about yourself. They watch what you're willing to tolerate. Many people struggle with boundaries because they confuse them with conflict. They think that saying no makes them selfish. They believe that standing their ground makes them difficult. But the truth is, boundaries are not walls designed to keep good people out. They are gates that help you decide who deserves access to your time, your energy, and your trust. Every successful person eventually learns that protecting those three things is not selfish. It is necessary. Imagine a farmer who spends months preparing the soil, planting seeds, watering the crops, and caring for the land. Would anyone expect him to leave the gate open so animals could wander in and destroy everything he worked for? Of course not. Yet people do exactly that with their lives. They work hard to build confidence, discipline, and peace of mind, but they leave the gate open by allowing constant disrespect, negativity, and manipulation. Then they wonder why their inner peace keeps disappearing. The lesson is simple. If you don't define your boundaries, someone else will define them for you. And most people, intentionally or not, will take as much as you allow. That's not because everyone is cruel. It's because human nature often tests limits. Children test limits. Employees test limits. Friends test limits. Even family members test limits. The question is never whether people will test your boundaries. The question is what you will do when they do. One of the greatest strengths you can develop is the ability to say no without feeling guilty. That small word has protected more dreams, more businesses, more relationships, and more peace of mind than almost any other. Every time you say yes to something that violates your values, you're saying no to something far more important. You're saying no to your own growth. You're saying no to your own priorities. You're saying no to your own future. Now, understand this clearly. You don't need to raise your voice to enforce a boundary. In fact, the strongest boundaries are usually spoken in the calmest tone. Anyone can lose their temper. Anyone can create a scene. But it takes real maturity to remain composed while standing firm. Strength doesn't shout. Strength remains steady. When you calmly repeat your standard without anger or apology, people begin to realize that your principles are not temporary emotions. They are permanent decisions. There will be moments when people push back. Some may accuse you of changing. Others may say you've become distant or difficult. Don't let those words discourage you. Growth often feels uncomfortable to those who benefited from your lack of boundaries. If someone only appreciates you when you're constantly sacrificing yourself, that's not respect. That's convenience. And convenience disappears the moment you stop making yourself available for every demand. Remember, every relationship teaches people how to interact with you. If someone interrupts you every time you speak and you never address it, you've silently given permission. If someone repeatedly disrespects your time and you're always willing to adjust, you've taught them that your schedule doesn't matter. If someone constantly insults you under the excuse of humor and you simply smile to avoid conflict, you've shown them that your dignity is negotiable. People pay attention to what you repeatedly accept far more than what you occasionally complain about. Boundaries also require consistency. You cannot enforce them one day and abandon them the next, depending on your mood. Inconsistency creates confusion. Consistency creates respect. The people who earn lasting respect are predictable in the best possible way. Their values don't change depending on who they're talking to. Their standards don't disappear when pressure arrives. Their character remains steady whether they're surrounded by supporters or critics. It's also important to understand that boundaries are not about controlling others. You cannot force people to behave a certain way. What you can control is your response. You can decide what behavior you'll accept, what conversations you'll participate in, and what environments you'll remain part of. That's where your power lives. The strongest position in life is never trying to change everyone around you. It's becoming so clear about your standards that those who refuse to respect them naturally remove themselves from your path. And here's something remarkable that happens when you begin living this way. The people who truly value you won't resent your boundaries. They'll respect them. They'll recognize that your standards are not acts of pride, but expressions of self-respect. Healthy relationships don't fear boundaries. They grow stronger because of them. They create trust, honesty, and mutual respect instead of silent resentment. So don't be afraid to protect what you've worked so hard to build. Your confidence deserves protection. Your peace deserves protection. Your dreams deserve protection. Your future deserves protection. Every meaningful achievement in your life becomes easier to preserve when you stop allowing disrespect to enter unchecked. Stand firm without becoming harsh. Be kind without becoming weak. Let your actions quietly communicate that your standards are not open for negotiation. The moment you protect your boundaries, you protect your worth. Once you've learned to respect yourself and protect that self-respect with firm boundaries, something remarkable begins to happen. You no longer feel the need to convince everyone of your value. You discover another principle that separates strong individuals from those who constantly struggle for recognition. Speak less, but make every word matter. There is a unique kind of power in restraint. The people who command the most respect are rarely the ones who talk the most. More often, they are the ones who have learned that words gain value when they are used with intention. Have you ever noticed how some people feel the need to explain every decision they make? They justify every choice, defend every opinion, and seek everyone's agreement before taking action. They believe that if they can just explain themselves long enough, everyone will finally understand. But life doesn't work that way. The more you chase understanding from people who have already made up their minds, the more you weaken your own position. Confidence does not require endless explanation. Confidence makes a decision, accepts responsibility for it, and keeps moving forward. Think about the people who have influenced your life the most. Chances are they weren't speaking every minute. They listened carefully, they observed before they reacted, and when they finally spoke, people paid attention because they knew those words carried weight. That's a habit worth developing. In a noisy world where everyone is trying to be heard, the person who chooses thoughtful silence often becomes the one everyone notices. Silence is not weakness. In many situations, silence is discipline. It takes very little effort to react immediately. It takes strength to pause, think, and respond with wisdom instead of emotion. When someone criticizes you unfairly, your first instinct may be to defend yourself. When someone misunderstands your intentions, you may feel an urge to explain every detail. But ask yourself this question: will explaining change the situation, or am I simply trying to win approval? That question alone can save you from countless unnecessary arguments. One of the greatest wastes of energy is trying to convince people who have no desire to understand you. Some people have already decided who they think you are. No amount of talking will change their minds. Your time is too valuable to spend chasing opinions you cannot control. Instead, let your actions become your explanation. Results have a way of speaking louder than any argument ever could. There is also tremendous strength in listening. Most people don't truly listen. They simply wait for their turn to speak. But when you become someone who listens with genuine attention, you gain something priceless: understanding. You begin to notice what motivates people, what they fear, what they value, and what they reveal without realizing it. Knowledge gathered through listening is often more valuable than attention gained through talking. This doesn't mean you should become passive or remain silent when something important needs to be said. Quite the opposite. It means choosing your words carefully so that when you do speak, people know it matters. A person who constantly speaks eventually blends into the background. But a person who speaks with clarity, purpose, and conviction naturally captures attention. Their words carry influence because they are not wasted. There's another benefit to speaking less. You become harder to manipulate. People often reveal their intentions while you're simply listening. They tell you more than they plan to tell. They expose inconsistencies in their own thinking. Meanwhile, because you are not constantly revealing every thought and emotion, you maintain clarity. You keep control of your decisions instead of allowing every conversation to pull you in a different direction. Remember, not every opinion deserves your response. Not every criticism deserves your attention. Some battles are won by refusing to enter them. Imagine standing before a mountain. Does the mountain argue with the wind? Does it defend itself against every passing storm? No. It remains steady because its strength is not dependent on the weather. Your character should become like that mountain. Let temporary opinions come and go without allowing them to shake your foundation. People often mistake loudness for confidence, but they're very different things. Loudness seeks attention. Confidence attracts it. Loudness tries to prove itself. Confidence simply performs. Loudness reacts to every challenge. Confidence chooses its battles wisely. That's why truly confident people don't feel pressured to dominate every conversation. They understand that influence is earned through consistency, not volume. As you continue growing, you'll notice another change. The less you speak carelessly, the more people begin to value your perspective. They'll know you're not speaking just to fill silence. You're speaking because you have something meaningful to contribute. That reputation becomes incredibly powerful. Your words become trusted because they are backed by your actions, your discipline, and your character. And perhaps the greatest lesson of all is this: your life should become your loudest message. Anyone can make promises. Anyone can offer impressive speeches, but the person whose daily habits match their words creates an influence that cannot be ignored. Let your work speak. Let your integrity speak. Let your discipline speak. When your actions consistently support your words, respect follows naturally because people recognize authenticity when they see it. So don't measure your strength by how much you can say. Measure it by how much your actions say without you needing to speak at all. The quieter your ego becomes, the stronger your presence grows. And when your words are chosen with purpose instead of impulse, people learn that every sentence you speak is worth hearing. Speak with purpose, live with conviction, and let your actions become your strongest voice. By this point, you've learned that respect begins with how you see yourself, that boundaries protect your self-worth, and that speaking with purpose carries far more influence than speaking constantly. Now, all of those lessons come together in one powerful principle. Build a reputation that speaks for you before you ever enter the room. There is no shortcut to lasting respect. It is earned through the quiet accumulation of consistent actions. Your reputation is not created by what you say about yourself. It is created by what you repeatedly do when no one is watching. Every single day, whether you realize it or not, you are writing your own story. Every promise you keep adds another sentence. Every excuse you make writes another chapter. Every difficult decision you face becomes another page. Eventually, people stop judging you by your intentions and start judging you by your patterns. They don't remember what you planned to do. They remember what you actually did. That's why your habits become your reputation long before your words ever do. It's easy to impress people for a day. It's much harder to earn their respect for years. Anyone can be motivated for a weekend. Anyone can make bold declarations at the beginning of a new month or a new year. But the individual who continues showing up long after the excitement fades, that is the person people begin to trust. Consistency is one of the rarest qualities in today's world, and because it is rare, it becomes incredibly valuable. Think about the people you admire. Chances are, you admire them not because they were perfect, but because they were dependable. When they gave their word, they meant it. When they accepted responsibility, they carried it through. When challenges appeared, they didn't disappear. That kind of reliability creates something far greater than popularity. It creates credibility. And credibility is one of the strongest forms of influence you will ever possess. Never underestimate the power of keeping small promises. Many people dream about accomplishing extraordinary things while ignoring the ordinary disciplines that make those achievements possible. They want the rewards without earning the reputation. But life doesn't work that way. Great reputations are built one ordinary day at a time. They are built by arriving on time, finishing what you start, treating people with respect, continuing to learn, and refusing to let temporary emotions control permanent decisions. You see, discipline has a fascinating characteristic. At first, nobody notices it. When you wake up early to work on yourself, the world keeps sleeping. When you spend another hour reading instead of wasting time, no one applauds. When you choose integrity over convenience, there is no audience cheering your decision. But those invisible moments are quietly shaping the person you are becoming. Day after day, they build a foundation so strong that eventually the results become impossible to ignore. One reason many people lose respect is because they become unpredictable. One day they are committed, the next day they quit. One week they are focused, the next week they are distracted. One moment they stand by their principles, and the next they abandon them because circumstances became uncomfortable. That inconsistency confuses people. They never know which version of you they're going to meet. But when your character remains steady, regardless of success or failure, people begin to rely on your presence. They know your values aren't determined by your emotions. Remember, your reputation is traveling ahead of you every single day. Before you walk into a meeting, people have already heard about your work ethic. Before someone chooses to trust you, they've observed how you treated others. Before opportunities arrive, your previous actions have already opened or closed certain doors. That's why you should never become obsessed with managing your image. Focus instead on strengthening your character. Image is what people see. Character is who you are when no one is watching. If your character is strong enough, your reputation will naturally take care of itself. There will also be moments when your reputation is tested. Someone may misunderstand your intentions. Someone may criticize your decisions unfairly. Someone may spread opinions that don't reflect who you truly are. In those moments, resist the temptation to panic. A reputation built over years is not destroyed by one opinion. Continue living your principles. Continue doing excellent work. Continue acting with integrity. Truth has a remarkable way of revealing itself over time. Temporary criticism cannot compete with years of consistent character. And let me share another important lesson. Excellence commands respect without demanding attention. You don't have to announce your value when your work consistently demonstrates it. Whether you're leading a business, raising a family, building a career, or improving yourself, pursue excellence in every area you can control. Not because you're seeking applause, but because excellence becomes part of your identity. Once it becomes your standard, average effort no longer satisfies you. People naturally become careful around individuals whose reputation is built on integrity and consistency, not because they are afraid of confrontation, but because they know this person cannot be manipulated by empty promises or temporary pressure. They know your word has weight. They know your standards don't change depending on convenience. They know your actions and your values move together. That kind of reputation creates quiet authority, and quiet authority is often stronger than loud influence. So ask yourself every morning, what am I becoming through today's choices? Because every decision leaves a mark. Every action adds another brick to the foundation of your reputation. Build it carefully, protect it faithfully, strengthen it daily. Over time, your name will begin to carry something priceless, not because you demanded respect, but because you earned it through unwavering character. A strong reputation is built in silence, but it echoes wherever you go. By now, you've seen that respect begins within you, is protected by your boundaries, strengthened through purposeful communication, and reinforced by a reputation built on consistency. But there is another quality that separates those who are easily dismissed from those who naturally command respect wherever they go. It is the ability to control your emotions instead of allowing your emotions to control you. This may be one of the greatest forms of strength a person can ever develop, because the world is constantly testing your patience, your composure, and your judgment. Most people believe power belongs to the loudest voice, the quickest comeback, or the strongest display of anger. But life teaches a different lesson. Anger may feel powerful for a moment, but self-control creates influence that lasts for a lifetime. Anyone can lose their temper. Anyone can react impulsively. Anyone can allow frustration to dictate their actions. But the person who remains calm under pressure possesses something much more valuable than emotional release. They possess mastery over themselves. Think about what happens whenever someone insults you or challenges your character. In that moment, you have two choices. You can react immediately and allow your emotions to take control, or you can pause, breathe, and choose your response carefully. That pause may only last a few seconds, but those few seconds often determine the direction of an entire relationship, a business opportunity, or even your future. One uncontrolled reaction can destroy what years of discipline have built. One thoughtful response can preserve your dignity and earn the respect of everyone watching. Here's something worth remembering. When someone can control your emotions, they can control your behavior. If every insult provokes you, if every criticism distracts you, if every negative opinion ruins your day, then you've handed other people the keys to your peace of mind. That is too high a price to pay. Your emotional state should never depend entirely on someone else's words or actions. Real freedom begins when you realize that your response is always your responsibility. Now, this doesn't mean pretending you never feel anger, disappointment, or frustration. Those emotions are part of being human. The goal isn't to eliminate emotion. The goal is to prevent emotion from becoming your decision maker. Feel what you need to feel, but don't allow temporary feelings to produce permanent mistakes. There is a tremendous difference between experiencing an emotion and being ruled by it. Consider a captain steering a ship through a violent storm. The waves are high, the wind is relentless, the rain is falling with incredible force. The captain cannot control the weather, but he can control the wheel. Life works exactly the same way. You cannot control every challenge that comes your way. You cannot prevent criticism, disappointment, betrayal, or setbacks, but you can decide whether those storms will determine your direction. The stronger your grip on the wheel, the less control the storm has over your destination. People often underestimate the quiet strength of composure. Imagine two individuals facing the exact same criticism. One immediately raises their voice, argues, and tries to prove everyone wrong. The other listens calmly, considers whether there's any truth in the criticism, and responds with confidence instead of defensiveness. Which person leaves the stronger impression? It is almost always the one who remained composed. Calmness communicates confidence. Panic communicates uncertainty. There is another reason emotional control is so valuable. It allows you to think clearly when others cannot. During moments of pressure, many people become prisoners of the present moment. They focus only on immediate satisfaction, winning the argument, getting even, proving a point. But emotionally disciplined people think beyond the moment. They ask themselves, will this reaction help me tomorrow? Will these words move me closer to the person I want to become? That simple habit prevents countless regrets. You should also understand that silence is sometimes the strongest response. Not every insult deserves an answer. Not every disagreement deserves a debate. Some people are not looking for understanding. They are looking for a reaction. When you refuse to provide it, you deny them the control they were seeking. Walking away from unnecessary conflict is not weakness. It is wisdom. It shows that your energy is too valuable to waste on battles that produce nothing meaningful. Developing emotional discipline requires practice. It won't happen overnight. There will be days when you fail, when your patience runs out, and when your emotions get the better of you. Don't let those moments define you. Learn from them. Every challenge becomes another opportunity to strengthen your character. Every difficult conversation becomes another chance to respond with maturity instead of impulse. Growth isn't measured by never making mistakes. It's measured by making fewer of them as your wisdom increases. As your emotional discipline grows, something remarkable begins to happen. People stop seeing you as someone who can be easily provoked. They recognize that pressure does not break you. Criticism does not distract you. Conflict does not control you. They begin to understand that your decisions come from principles rather than emotions. And when people realize they cannot manipulate your reactions, they naturally approach you with greater respect. Remember, your greatest victory is never over another person. Your greatest victory is over the impulses that once controlled you. Master your temper and you'll master countless situations that would have defeated the person you used to be. Stay steady when others lose control. Stay thoughtful when others become impulsive. Stay focused when others become distracted. That quiet discipline will speak louder than any emotional outburst ever could. The person who controls their emotions controls their destiny. As we bring all of these ideas together, there is one final lesson that gives every principle you've heard today its true power. You can respect yourself. You can establish firm boundaries. You can speak with purpose. You can build a reputation that reflects integrity. You can master your emotions. But none of those qualities will matter if you refuse to do one thing when the moment calls for it. Walk away from persistent disrespect. Sometimes the greatest display of strength is not standing and fighting. Sometimes it is knowing your value well enough to leave without bitterness, without drama, and without looking back. Many people stay in situations that slowly destroy their confidence because they fear losing a relationship, an opportunity, or the approval of others. They tolerate constant criticism. They accept broken promises. They make excuses for behavior that repeatedly violates their values. They tell themselves maybe things will change. And sometimes they do, but far too often they don't. The sad reality is that people who repeatedly disrespect you rarely change simply because you continue enduring it. More often, they become comfortable with the fact that you will always stay. There comes a point where patience stops being wisdom and starts becoming permission. There comes a point where giving another chance becomes another excuse to ignore your own self-respect. Knowing where that line exists is one of the most valuable lessons you can ever learn. Walking away doesn't mean you hate someone. It doesn't mean you wish them harm. It doesn't mean you become bitter or resentful. It simply means you have decided that your peace of mind is too valuable to be sacrificed repeatedly. You can wish people well while refusing to let them continue occupying a place in your life. Those two ideas can exist together. One of the greatest misunderstandings about strength is the belief that strong people never leave. The opposite is often true. Strong people know that not every battle deserves to be fought. They understand that arguing with someone determined to misunderstand them is a waste of precious energy. They recognize that some doors are meant to be closed, not because they failed, but because they finally recognized they deserved better. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack every single day. At first, you adjust to the weight. You convince yourself it isn't that bad. You keep walking because you've grown accustomed to the discomfort. Then one day you finally set it down. Suddenly you realize how exhausted you had become without even noticing it. That's exactly what happens when you remove yourself from relationships, environments, or habits that constantly drain your spirit. You don't realize how heavy the burden was until you stop carrying it. Life is too short to spend it begging people to appreciate your worth. Respect cannot be forced. It cannot be negotiated into existence. If someone repeatedly refuses to recognize your value after you've communicated honestly, maintained your standards, and treated them fairly, the answer is no longer another conversation. The answer may simply be distance. Now, be careful not to confuse temporary disagreement with lasting disrespect. Every meaningful relationship will experience conflict. Friends disagree. Families misunderstand one another. Colleagues make mistakes. Walking away should never become an excuse to avoid every uncomfortable conversation. Maturity means making sincere efforts to resolve problems whenever possible. But when disrespect becomes a pattern instead of an exception, wisdom tells you it's time to protect your future. Remember, every time you remain in an unhealthy environment, you're paying with something more valuable than money. You're paying with time, and time is the one investment you'll never get back. You can earn more income. You can build another business. You can recover from financial loss. But no one can give you back the years spent shrinking yourself to fit into places where you were never appreciated. There is something extraordinary that happens when you become willing to walk away. You stop making decisions from fear and start making them from conviction. Fear says, what if I lose them? Conviction says, what if I lose myself? That one shift changes everything. Because once you refuse to abandon your values for temporary comfort, you become someone who cannot be easily controlled. Your confidence no longer depends on who stays or who leaves. It depends on knowing you've remained true to your principles. Ironically, this willingness to walk away often earns more respect than endless attempts to hold on. People recognize that your standards are real. They understand that your boundaries are not empty words. They see that your actions match your beliefs. And whether they agree with your decision or not, they know you are a person who cannot be manipulated by guilt, pressure, or convenience as you continue your journey. Remember that your goal is not to make people fear you. Your goal is to become a person whose character, discipline, integrity, and self-respect make disrespect an unwise choice. There is a tremendous difference. Fear based on intimidation eventually disappears. Respect earned through unwavering character grows stronger with time. Build that kind of life. Protect that kind of character. Live with such consistency that your presence quietly raises the standard for everyone around you. Never chase respect. Become the kind of person who naturally inspires it. Stand firm without becoming arrogant. Be compassionate without becoming weak. Speak with wisdom, act with integrity, and never compromise the principles that define who you are. When you do, you'll discover that the greatest power isn't found in controlling other people. It's found in mastering yourself. And when you master yourself, the world learns that your dignity is never up for negotiation. The strongest person is the one who can walk away with peace, purpose, and self-respect intact.